will these companies be able to sustain in long run? That is the question. And answer to this question is yes, of course, they will be able to uh, sustain themselves in future, provided their intentions are not to fool the investor. If their intentions are not to fool the investor, and provided the value that they are talking about or the story that they are talking about is there and not otherwise. Unfortunately, in case of many of these companies, the situation is not very encouraging. Paytm is quoting at a discount of 75% to the issue price. 1 रुपए का शेयर था, 2155 was the issue price, and the stock tanked by 40% in the very first week of its listing itself. Today, this is quoting at a discount of 75% to the issue price. Zomato, I can understand. LIC is quoting at a discount of 32% on 17th November. So I'm sure the situation would not have changed much, rather it would have become even worse. So can you imagine, LIC is a government owned company. And not only is a government owned company, but LIC is supposed to be the grandfather as far as the valuations are concerned, because that is their prime business. So what they do only valuations, investments and valuations. But their price is quoting at a discount of 32%, and you can imagine what kind of hit the retail investors must have got because of erosion of 32% of the issue price. A Reliance Power quoting at a discount of 97%. Rate Gain Travel Technology 33%. Car Trade Tech 70%. Krishna Diagnostic 51%. SJS Enterprise, I can understand. Fino Payments Bank discount quoting at a discount of 67%. Aditya Birla 40%. Suryodaya Small Finance Bank 67%. Coffee Day Enterprise 85%. JP Infratech 99%. Nykaa 2.4%. Star Health 32%. So the question is, will these companies be able to sustain these kind of valuations? And the answer, of course, is they can sustain, provided their intent is not to fleece the investor. Their intent is not to fraud the investor. Their intent is not to cheat the investor. Their intent is they have a value and they will like to offer that value, offer that story for the benefit of everyone. Another question, friends, that should come to your mind and must be coming to your mind is, why do we have IPO debacles of companies like Reliance Power, LIC, Paytm और Zomato? Have you ever thought, कभी सोचा आपने कि क्यों, क्या कारण हो सकता है कि LIC, Paytm, Reliance Power, Zomato and so many of them क्यों इन कंपनीज के जो IPOs हैं फ्लॉप हुए और बुरी तरह से फ्लॉप हुए? And another question, can this be stopped? Friends, let me tell you one reason as to why these IPOs have flopped, and that is because number one, the valuation that they have done is not in line with the prescribed norms. So what is the prescribed norm? What is the prescribed format for the purpose of valuation in case of IPOs or otherwise? So number one is according to Index 113. Index 113, which is on fair value measurement, it talks about something which is known as valuation hierarchy. And what is this valuation hierarchy? This valuation hierarchy, as per Index 113 on fair value measurement, वो hierarchy क्या कहती है? वो hierarchy कहती है कि जिस asset का आप valuation कर रहे हैं, अगर वो asset quoted है, तो use the quoted price of that asset for the purpose of valuation. So that is number one. Now, in case the asset that you are trying to value is not quoted, then what you do? Then the Index 113 gives you the second level of input in the valuation hierarchy. And what is the second level input? The second level input says that use the market approach, and that means what? That means use the comparable company method और use the comparable transaction method. क्या मतलब है? मतलब यह है कि अगर आप एक ऐसी कंपनी का वैल्यूएशन कर रहे हैं जो कि कोटेड नहीं है, और अगर वो कोटेड नहीं है तो उसकी कोटेड प्राइस अवेलेबल नहीं है, उसकी कोटेड प्राइस अगर अवेलेबल नहीं है और उस कंपनी का आपको वैल्यूएशन करना ही है, तो आप उसका वैल्यूएशन कैसे करेंगे? उसके वैल्यूएशन के लिए इंडेक्स 113 ऑन फेयर वैल्यू मेजरमेंट सेज दैट यूज कंपेरेबल कंपनी मेथड, मीनिंग व्हाट? मीनिंग यूज अ कंपनी which is of a similar type of company as that which you want to value. उस तरह की दूसरी कंपनी स्टॉक मार्केट में अगर लिस्टेड है तो उसको देखिए, उसकी प्राइस को देखिए, उसकी प्राइस को डिफरेंसेस के लिए एडजस्ट करिए, और डिफरेंसेस के लिए एडजस्ट करके दिस इज हाउ यू कैन फाइंड आउट द कंपेरेबल the value of your company using the comparable company method. Now, in case of LIC, in case of Zomato, in case of Reliance Power, or in case of all these companies that we are talking about, quoted price was not available, and the comparable company method is also not available. And why is not available? Because that is what, अगर आप इन कंपनीज का RHP देखें, रेड हेरिंग प्रोस्पेक्टस देखें, except the Reliance, except the LIC, in case of Zomato or in case of Paytm, you will see that it clearly says that there are no companies which are of the same type as we are, and therefore comparable company method cannot be used in case of these companies for pricing these IPOs. Then the Index 113 on fair value measurement talks in terms of level 3 input. And what the level 3 input is? Level 3 input, it says that use unobservable data, unobservable information. That means for the purpose of doing valuation for a company like Paytm, for a company like Zomato, what you should do, use the level 3 input. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है, create your own information and use that information for the purpose of valuation. That means what? That means use the discounted cash flow method. यानी कि पेटीएम ने क्या करना चाहिए? पेटीएम should project the future cash flows and discount that future cash flows by an appropriate cost of capital, and thereby find out the intrinsic value of Paytm, and that intrinsic value of Paytm would have been the real price or real issue price of that company, but it has not been done. And that is the reason, friends, as to why all these companies run into trouble and there are fiascos. Just to share it with you, how these IPOs have been valued. Zomato का वैल्यूएशन कैसे किया? Zomato का वैल्यूएशन कोटेड प्राइस के बेसिस पे हो नहीं सकता, बिकॉज द कंपनी वाज नॉट लिस्टेड. Zomato का वैल्यूएशन मार्केट अप्रोच के बेसिस पे हो नहीं सकता, बिकॉज कंपेरेबल कंपनी कोई है नहीं. एंड Zomato का वैल्यूएशन करने का एक ही तरीका है, एंड दैट इज डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड. बट दैट डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड वाज नेवर यूज्ड इन केस ऑफ Zomato, or in case of Paytm, or in case of LIC also. What they have done and how they have used, and let me show it to you. So this is the basis for offer price taken from the red herring prospectus of Paytm, and let me read it out for you. And what does it say? कि Paytm का जो इश्यू प्राइस था 2155 रुपए का, वो 2000 रुपये 155 रुपए की प्राइस कैसे डिसाइड करी? वो डिसाइड इस तरह से करी, द प्राइस बैंड एंड द ऑफर प्राइस will be determined by our company and the investors selling shareholders in consultation with JGC BRLM and the BRLMs on the basis of assessment of market demand for the equity shares offered through the book building process and the quantitative and qualitative factors as described below. यानी कि कुछ भी जो नॉर्म्स हैं वैल्यूएशन के वो इस्तेमाल नहीं किए हैं. सिंपली book building process has been used, and in that book building process at random a price band has been decided. How that price band has been decided, what basis they have used for deciding that price band, nothing is given, and that is how they have done the valuation. And so you can imagine, if this is how the valuation is done. When you give a price band, you are not giving a choice for the investor to decide कि उसको 1 रुपये में खरीदना है कि 2 रुपये में खरीदना है कि 10 रुपये में खरीदना है कि 100 रुपये में खरीदना है. यू आर गिविंग अ प्राइस बैंड कि अगर आपको लेना है तो ये प्राइस बैंड में कोट करो तो आपको आप अप्लाई कर सकते हो, अदरवाइज आप अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते, विच इज कंप्लीटली रॉन्ग. Which is completely wrong, and that is what has to be paid attention to by our regulators. So let me tell you friends, in conclusion, according to what are the statutory provisions for valuations of IPOs in our country. So the statutory provisions for the purpose of valuation are: number one is, under section 247 of the Companies Act, it requires that every valuation should be done by a registered valuer. And I would like to urge all of you please scrutinize the RHP of all these companies that I have just spoken with you. Try and see if there is any mention in that red herring prospectus somewhere that this price band was given by a valuation report given by a registered valuer as per the valuation rules of 2017. Please find it out, and if you are able to find it out, I will share my number with you. Please do share it with me, but it looks like it has not been done. Number two, the requirement of valuation is valuation standards of IBSC or ICAI provides for 3 approaches of the valuation, and those have to be used and nothing else can be used. Number 3, as I have discussed with you, Indes 113 provides for 3 valuation hierarchy, and it talks about unobservable data, observable data, and quoted price. And as I mentioned a little while ago, in case of all these companies, what should have been used for the purpose of deciding the IPO price is the unobservable data, which is nothing but discounted cash flow method or something of that type. It has not been done. Now, interestingly, Regulation 6(1) of SEBI, and ये जरा आपको ध्यान से सुनने की जरूरत है. आप समझ सकते हैं कि जब आप रेगुलेशन 6 सब रेगुलेशन 1 ऑफ सेबी LOD ICDR 2018 को पढ़ेंगे तो आपको ध्यान में आएगा कि एक कंपनी को अगर इश्यू प्रीमियम पे करना है तो इट हैज़ टू मीट सर्टेन मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट्स. एंड व्हाट दोज मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट्स आर? दोज मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट्स आर कि हिंदुस्तान में अगर किसी कंपनी को IPO प्रीमियम पे करना है तो मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट है. वो मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है? नंबर 1, टेंजिबल एसेट्स 3 करोड़ के होने चाहिए. नंबर 2, नेटवर्थ 1 करोड़ का होना चाहिए. एंड नंबर 3, एवरेज ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट ऑफ लास्ट 3 years शुड बी ऑफ 15 करोड़. यानी कि पिछले 3 सालों में कंपनी ने एवरेज प्रॉफिट ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट 15 करोड़ का होना चाहिए 3 साल का. नाउ दिस इज द मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट एज पर रेगुलेशन 6 सब रेगुलेशन 1. And as per regulation 6 sub regulation 1, what is the requirement? There is no requirement, or this is how it is being interpreted. So how it is being interpreted कि आपके पास में प्रॉफिट नहीं है, परवाह नहीं, नेटवर्थ नहीं है, परवाह नहीं, टेंजिबल एसेट्स नहीं है, परवाह नहीं. What you need is use only book building process and give a price band to the investing public. Let them apply to your IPO, selecting a price from that price band, and that's it. That is how the pricing is done. And this is where unfortunately lies the problem. Now, let me also tell you friends, as my previous speaker was very rightly mentioning about the Paytm. Paytm 1 रुपये का शेयर 2155 उसका इश्यू प्राइस था. आज की तारीख में वो शेयर करीब 550 के ऊपर ट्रेड हो रहा है. दैट मीन्स इट इज़ ऑलमोस्ट एट अ डिस्काउंट ऑफ 75% और देयर अबाउट. और आपको एक चीज़ मालूम है कि ये कंपनी Paytm विच केम आउट विद द पब्लिक इश्यू 1 year बैक, अब लिटिल मोर देन 1 year बैक, एट इश्यू प्राइस ऑफ 2155. This same company 1 year down the line has offered to buy the shares back from the shareholders at a price of 600 rupees per share. Can you imagine? This is called broad daylight robbery. And interestingly, it is not being taken note of by our regulators. यानी कि एक कंपनी 2155 में आपको इशू करती है शेयर, और वही शेयर ऑफर करती है आपसे परचेज करने के लिए एट द प्राइस ऑफ 600 रुपीज. व्हाट कैन बी वर्स देन this as a broad daylight robbery, and this is what is not being questioned, and this is something which is astonishing and surprising. And please remember, who is at the loss in a case like this? It is not the private equity who is at the loss, it is not the investor Chandrasekhar Sharma who is at the loss, because Chandrasekhar Sharma got all his shares at rupee 1, and all those shares of rupee 1, he could part of it, I'm sure he must have disposed it off as part of the IPO or as the part of OFS at a price of 2155. So the promoters have made enough money, private equity funds have made enough money, the venture capital funds have made enough money, seed capital providers have made enough money, everyone who has bought the anchor investors have made enough money. Who is at loss? At loss is the रिटेल इन्वेस्टर. एंड कैन यू इमेजिन कि वो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर का जो पैसा है वो 75% से इरोड होगी उसकी वैल्यू. एंड द रिटेल इन्वेस्टर, रिमेंबर, इज वन हु हैज़ ट्रूली हार्ड अर्नड मनी, and that is where, friends, we have to be very, very careful. And that is, valuation is not about the numbers for sure, but those numbers that you use has to be authentic. कोई भी वैल्यूएशन क्रिएट, मतलब ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि पहले वैल्यूएशन डिसाइड करें और बाद में उसके हिसाब से नंबर एडजस्ट करें. इफ दैट इज व्हाट इज बीइंग डन, देन यू विल हैव मोर पेटीएम्स हैपनिंग, देन यू विल हैव मोर रिलायंस पावर हैपनिंग, देन यू विल हैव मोर सच थिंग्स हैपनिंग. वैल्यूएशन का मतलब क्या है? यूज द नंबर्स एंड यूजिंग द राइट नंबर्स, देन यू कम टू अ वैल्यूएशन एंड रीच टू अ फेयर वैल्यू. दैट इज व्हाट इज द वैल्यूएशन, एंड नॉट वाइस वर्सा. इंटरेस्टिंगली, जाते जाते आपको एक चीज़ और बता दूं फ्रेंड्स, और वो ये कि देर इज अ सेक्शन कॉल्ड 56(2) सेक्शन 56 सबसेक्शन 2 क्लॉज 7B. एंड व्हाट दिस सेक्शन 56 सबसेक्शन 2 क्लॉज 7B इज अबाउट? It is about that when a company is issuing the shares of a company, and I'm talking about when this is in the context of unquoted shares. And please remember, जब Paytm ने IPO किया, उस समय पे Paytm was a unquoted share. It was an unquoted share. That means it is hit by section 56 subsection 2 clause 7B. And what this section 56 to 7B says, it says कि अगर कोई कंपनी as per the income tax of अगर कोई company, if a company is issuing shares at a price which is more than the fair value, then the excess of the fair value, excess of the premium collected over the fair value will be taxed as income from other sources as per the income tax provisions in the hands of the company that is issuing shares. एंड प्लीज रिमेंबर, इस कंपनी ने क्या किया? इस कंपनी ने 2155 रुपये का शेयर इशू किया. उसकी फेयर वैल्यू क्या है? उसकी फेयर वैल्यू 600 रुपये है. 600 रुपये क्यों है? क्योंकि आज की तारीख में पेटीएम इटसेल्फ हैज़ ऑफर टू बाय बैक दी शेयर्स एट ए प्राइस ऑफ 600 रुपीज़. यानी कि जब आपने 2155 का इशू किया और आप खुद उसको 600 रुपये में ले रहे हो, इसका मतलब अब आपको मालूम है कि आपके कंपनी की फेयर वैल्यू कितनी है, और आपके कंपनी की शेयर की फेयर वैल्यू कितनी है? 600 है. और आपने उसको कितने पे इशू किया? आपने उसको 2155 पे इशू किया. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब यह है कि एज पर सेक्शन 56 सबसेक्शन 2 क्लॉज 7B एंड एज पर रूल 11(u)(a)(2) you have collected more money than the fair value of the shares of that company. And how much that amount is? That amount is 1555. That means this amount should be taxed in the hands of Paytm as per section 56 subsection 2 7B. And that is what is something should be looked at by our regulators. Please remember, for every one of us as the valuation professional, it is a big responsibility. And what the big responsibility is, the valuation as a profession is to support good corporate governance in this country. Good corporate governance in this country. And that is the reason and the purpose behind the government to come out with this provision. and we have to ensure in one way or the other that the valuations which are given by anyone in this country are fair value to everyone, so that no one is adversely affected of their hard earned money. So friends, with this I come to the close of my session. In case if you have any question, you can of course please ask me and I will be happy to take them. Of course we have little time, so any doubt, any question, please go ahead.